Episode of the States Up Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Freeman. This week, we're talking women's basketball. And to join us to talk about women's hoops, she is in her third year as a full-time assistant, seventh year overall with the program, a former Division I player, again now turned coach. Paige Love, she is our guest in the podcast this week. Paige, how are you?
I'm doing great. It is always a great day to be a Bobcat, Brant. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on here, Paige. And as I mentioned, this is your third year as a full-time assistant with the program, seventh year overall, this after having been a player at the Division I level. How fulfilling has experience been for you to get into coaching?
I mean, it's all I've done, right? I went straight from being a player at UNC Asheville, went right into the So You Want to Be a Coach program. Thought I might wanted to be a teacher, but then really got a great calling to go be a graduate assistant. That's the first time I met Coach Z, was in Indianapolis at the Final Four, and I met Coach Abby. And without meeting them in that moment, I would not be here today. So that is very special to me that I was in the right place at the right time and was lucky enough to become a graduate assistant here. But I love what I do. A lot of people say that, when you work and you love what you do, it doesn't even feel like work. I love mentoring and being around these young student athletes, even with all the landscape changes that are happening in college athletics. I still love what I do.
You mentioned the way that you started at Texas State, when you got that grad assistant position in 2016. It was only a couple of years later that this team went on. This program had a massive run in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, made it all the way to the championship game, won 23 games that year, had a player of the year in Taylor Deere, went to the women's NIT. What do you recall about that experience being such a young coach at the time?
Man, I was in the gym with Taylor Deere and Tasha Levitt all the time. That's one of my favorite memories, was all the time we spent in the gym together, because that's when you really are able to have one-on-one conversations with them and get to know them at a deeper level. Taylor was awesome. I got to see her when she was really in her shining moments. That year, everyone was for each other. Erica May would do whatever for the team. Tiara Pitts was the mom on the team. Taylor was putting on a show, but then she had Tasha right there behind her. Tasha goes down as one of my all-time favorites. Me and her are really still close to this day. But that team was really special, and they loved Coach Z. They loved being a Bobcat. They still love being a Bobcat. A lot of them have, came back and spent time with us. Tiara Pitts was our graduate assistant for 2 years. So very, very special memories. One of my favorites was when we beat Texas Tech. So Taylor dropped over 40 on the road. Coach Z and I were just talking about this. This was one of my first scouting reports as a young coach. I assisted with the scout, and you always remember your first scouting report as a coach, and that was it. And Coach Z and I just were talking about it, walking up after we had practice yesterday, actually, because that was a really awesome moment. And it wasn't the scouting report, it was Taylor Deere dropping 40.
What goes into a scouting report? We hear about this, the assistant coaches serve as the scouts for some of these opponents that come in, but what does that entail?
A lot of hours in watching film. So when you have an upcoming scout, you're watching at least their last 5 games. When we break it down what they do well, personnel, how we're going to score, what deficiencies are in their defense that we can expose. What should we look to expose? Offensively, defensively, do they press? What is their identity? How have they beaten certain teams? What do they struggle in? It's a lot of time breaking down film. And then when you break down that film, you have to organize it, sort it so that the coaches can clearly understand, but then you also have to take another level. What specifically do you want to show the players? So when I'm scouting, I really want to make sure when they're walking away that they have a clear outline of what it looks like for the opponent that we're playing. So whatever you harp on is what they're going to hear the most. You got to keep it very simple for them. 3 to 4 things that this team does well that we have to do to take that away in order to win the game. But it's a lot of time and preparation. And the more that you do it, the better that you get at it. You can call other coaches that have played them to see if you have any play calls. You can listen for the announcers to see any tips that they may say regarding why somebody's out or a certain accolade that one of the players has coming up. So that's motivation, right? So if a player's about to hit their 1,000th point, you could use that in your scout. Okay, we can't let number 12 get to her 1,000th. So that kind of gets the girls fired up to make sure that we don't let her get a milestone on our floor or against us.
I didn't realize some of her commentary went into the scouting report, by the way.
It does for me and our staff because we're very detail oriented and we're picking up on things, watching the press conferences, watching what the news article says about them. Anything that can give us a competitive advantage, we're taking full advantage of.
So you, again, started your coaching career at Texas State, as a grad assistant for 3-4 seasons. Then you moved on to your alma mater at UNC Asheville. What was it like for you to go back to the alma mater and become a full-time coach there?
Absolutely. Asheville always holds a special place in my heart. For those that don't know my story, when Brenda Mock Kirkpatrick took over the program when I was a freshman, we were 2-26. So that was not good. Worst team in Division I. By the time my senior year ended, we were 26-6. We were regular season champions and tournament champions. So we completely turned the program around. She does a phenomenal job. She is now at East Tennessee State, but she really poured into me. She took a chance on a kid from Wilkesboro, North Carolina that was just bought in, would do whatever she could for the program, and had a mantra for each other. And that team, we had nobody over 11 points per game. So we were really just sharing the ball. Everybody did whatever they needed to do to get the job done. But going back there was awesome. I had a different vision in my mind, but then COVID happened. So the pandemic was really hard when Coach Honey Brown took over and had to take over a program in a pandemic. It's never easy. So there was a lot of challenges that came with that, but I was able to be closer to home. My brother went to Western Carolina, so I was able to be closer to him. That's about 30 minutes away. My grandfather was really sick at the time, so I was able to be closer to my grandfather and my grandma just to be close to family. And just coaching at your alma mater is always special. Coach Honey Brown had to sit out a game, so I got some head coaching experience, and that was really awesome for me. As assistant, you can have all the thoughts you want, but when you move over 2 inches, all that pressure and the anxiety that comes with that, it is definitely a thing when you are the head coach. So that was great experience, but a lot of great memories at Asheville, and I'm just continuing to pray for the whole Asheville community as they were hit with Hurricane Helene. Our Texas State SAC, our vice president is Sierra Dixon. She's on our team. She got together with our AD, Don Correll, and they put together a care package to send to Asheville Athletics. And I think that's really special. That's one of the many reasons why I love being a Bobcat, is because we're always going to look after and take care of each other and take care of our own. And I'm really appreciative of our SAC and Sierra and Don and Tracy for taking care of that.
How great has the support system been for you from athletic director Don Coryell with its women's basketball program?
Don and Dr. Kelly and Miss Beth have been so important for the drive of women's basketball and the drive for our recruiting efforts. They're involved in everything. Leadership always starts at the top, and they are authentic. They are genuine. They care, and they want to see the success of all sports, and they're willing to put the time, effort, money into women's athletics when I think is so important. And when that leadership starts at the top, you see them at everything. They know you by name. They're commenting on our Instagram post. They're so involved. It's amazing. And I've never seen anything like it, especially from the president level.
Getting back to your experience as a player at UNC Asheville, you mentioned that final season, 26 wins, winning both a regular season and tournament title. What was the experience like for you playing in the NCAA tournament then that year?
Oh yeah, we played at Kentucky and we did not have a good showing, unfortunately. I think the moment was too big, but to get there, you want that. And that's why, Coach Z's been a mid-major student athlete and won championships. Coach Jarek has been a mid-major student athlete and won championships. We keep telling our players you want to get there, and what it takes to get there is extremely hard, and everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has to be willing to do whatever it takes to get the win. But getting there is so sweet. And there is nothing like seeing your name called for the NCAA tournament and whoever you matched up against. That feeling you can't replace.
You mentioned Coach Z. What's it like working with her?
Honestly, Coach Z's family, her family is my family. She's always treated me 100% like a daughter. She is all in for my family. She's all in for me and my growth. I think it says a lot for her to bring me back. I think that was a huge statement for her loyalty and just her ability to take care of her own. Back to what being a Bobcat is like. Again, she took a chance on me when I was a graduate assistant. She's an amazing boss. She shows what it's like to be a mother in coaching and a wife in coaching, especially as a head coach. And she has such a great understanding of how to coach and mentor female student athletes. I've learned so much from her, and she's just an incredibly great person.
I have to ask you this, Paige. From being a player to coaching now, certainly you have to love what you do, and you do. That much is evident.
Mhm.
Where does your love of the game come from?
I think I'm a competitor at heart, but I love basketball because of the team. I think it teaches you so much on how to be um, a team player and how to work through adversity. I love basketball because I watch it all the time, right? Love the W, love watching college basketball. But the biggest thing I learned as a student athlete was I didn't remember all the wins and losses, but the relationships I got with my teammates, the relationships I got with my coaches, the adversity I dealt with and had to overcome that. That is why I like being in this position, because I want to make sure that when it's 5 years later, Tasha Levitt is messaging me saying, man, I miss all those Coach Page talks, or man, I miss getting in the gym with you. Like, that is what means more to me than anything, because I know I'm making a difference. And that is why I feel like I've been placed as a basketball coach.
Starting from your time as a player to where you are now as a coach, it's been about 10 years or so, and the game has evolved so much. How much has it changed over the last 10 years?
I kind of think of it in segments, right? Even the last 2 years, it's gotten a completely different. I used to know compliance like this, right? Now it's changing. I feel like every month. Kelsey Solis, shout out to you, because you do such a great job with our program. But it's changed so much. And I think that just continuing to remind people of why they play basketball, doing it for the right reasons, making sure we're still developing young student athletes, making sure we're still empowering females, making sure we're still graduating student athletes. It's definitely changed. I don't think it's changed how we've approached like our coaching style, but we're definitely having to put more efforts into NIL, retention. The transfer portal is very real. We have 10 newcomers, 5 of those being transfer portal, 4 freshmen, 1 junior college player. It's definitely changed. And in order to evolve, you have to move with the times. You can't be stuck in that old mindset. We've got to find ways to be innovative. One of those, we did a WNBA watch party, and all the fundraising went to our NIL efforts, and it was a really great hit. But that's something that we're having to carve out space into our day-to-day. From X's and O's, player relationships, recruiting, you have to carve out space for NIL and making sure that we're calling on our alumni of what this program did for you. You've got to pour in to make sure that other people have those same experiences.
How great were the finals, by the way, between New York and Minnesota?
So great. I was cheering so hard for the Lynx, man. I love Nafisha Collier. That was really awesome. I think that now is at a heightened sense of women's basketball, and that if you're not watching women's basketball, you're behind. But just the crowd that we had at our WNBA watch party, I think that shows where we are at as a women's basketball culture. And thank you. It's finally here. Finally, people are recognizing how great the sport is.
Looking more at this year's team, the season's still very young. You're only 4 games in. You're coming off of a win from the other night. You're getting ready for a game coming up this weekend against Stephen F. Austin, which will be a very tough opponent. coming up on Friday. What do you like about coaching this year's team?
This is my first time having 10 newcomers, right? So I love learning about each and every one of them and how to coach them the best of our ability. This team is so fun. If you watch any of our social media or if you're around them, everyone says they're so fun, they're so loving, they're genuine, they're caring. They're always trying to talk to me, to get to know me, even at our mixer that we had at the football game. They're super fun. From a basketball standpoint, I would hope when you come to our games, you're seeing competitiveness, you're seeing togetherness. Our bench energy should be very on point. That's something that we emphasize with our charge chain. We have a charge chain we hang. If anybody gets an and one, we have some and one shoes that we're throwing up. Those are some of the things that you should see, but I'm really enjoying coaching this team. They're tough, they're competitive, and they really love to play basketball. I went down the line before our stretch and I went down and I said everything I appreciate about each person. And that was so easy for me. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you got to dig and think, really, what do I appreciate about you? But I was able to go down the line, all 15, and tell them everything I appreciate about them, because you got to make sure that you remind them of that, because the season is long.
Paige, I have to ask you, this program is only 2 years removed from winning a Sun Belt championship, 23 wins that season, a run to the title game, a run to the women's NIT, a lot of parallels to that 2018 year we talked about earlier. But
Yeah.
again, that was only 2 years ago. What will it take to get this program back to that level?
It's a great question. I think when you think about the 23 team and the 18 team, you had everyone locked in on the exact thing that they were supposed to do. You had everybody doing their job. You knew KT was going to run the show and Denasia was going to do her thing. But let's not forget all the other pieces that played a fact into winning. Taylor Pruitt, coming off the bench, was the best sixth man in the league. Jacaleb Bowie, tough as nails, was willing to do whatever the gritty things were. Tiana Eaton was able to use her athleticism, be an athlete. Jada Reed, I could keep going down the list, but there were so many pieces of that team and they were all willing to do whatever it takes. I think for this team to get there, we've got to get on that page, is that whatever your job is, you do it to the best of your ability, and then everything else will take care of itself.
What's your final message to the fans, as we kind of wrap things up here in the podcast, in terms of what they could expect to see the rest of the season from this year's team?
Absolutely. I really challenge you guys to come out and watch us. We are going to have a great product. Give us some time. We've got 10 newcomers, right? But that's a long season. The Sun Belt is very competitive. Challenge you guys to come out. We play SFA 7 p.m. on Friday, but we have several other home games. The UTSA one will be really big, December 21st, right before Christmas. But for Bobcat basketball, we want to play fast. We want to get after people defensively. And I hope that you're seeing some unselfish play out there. That could mean diving on the floor, sharing the basketball, having great bench energy, unselfish rebounding. And I would really hope that you guys see that, because that's what we are preaching day in, day out at practice.
Great stuff, Paige. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been, I've known of it for a while. Your time as a player at UNC Asheville, 2 stints now at Texas State, this time as a full-time assistant. Your opportunity to go back home and then come back to Texas State as well. So thank you for sharing your story, and we're looking forward to the rest of the year for women's basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brant, and thank you, fans. I hope you guys come out to a game, and if I'm ever around you, if I'm not bringing the juice, you better check me, because I'm always bringing the juice.
All right, with that again, Bobcat assistant coach Paige Love joining us in the State Sun podcast. The Bobcats, again, a big game against SFA this weekend as they continue non-conference play. Well, for Paige Love, I'm Brant Freeman. As always, Paige already did it, reminding you to keep your states up, and we'll see you next time.